Good day, poker peeps. This is Sky with Smart Poker Study. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the KISS cash game ranges through 15 different hands in various situations and positions. First off, I want you to take a look at the KISS ranges right over here. These are going to make you a tight and aggressive player. This is the style of play that I recommend to become profitable at the micro stakes anywhere from 2NL up to 25NL. Now, these are the ranges that I teach all of my micro stake students to use, especially if they're finding it difficult to make money in online poker. Anybody who comes to me as a losing player, maybe they're overly loose players who put themselves in terrible post-flop spots through or because of their pre-flop decisions, and also super tight players who maybe just stick around and wait for aces and kings, you know? Now, because every hand of No Limit Hold'em sees the pre-flop action, great pre-flop hand selection sets you up for post-flop success. That is absolutely true, and that's what the KISS ranges are intended to do, set you up for that post-flop success. So, if you're finding it difficult to make money with online poker in the micro stakes, you must get these ranges and start using them today. You can get them by going to smartpokerstudy.com/free KISS ranges. Okay? Let's get started with the most important pre-flop action, open raising. Alrighty, so when it comes to open raising, we're going to focus on this box right up here. Before we get to that real quick, one of the important things I need to mention, page 1 of the KISS cash game ranges has some basic directions right here. They're called the KISS ranges. Keep it simple, stupid, because I've simplified the positions. In a 6-max game, which you're going to see, all the hands today are 6-max hands. The EP ranges, they're used for under the gun and the MP. In a full ring game, they're used for the first 5 positions, under the gun all the way through to the hijack. Like I said, we're keeping things simple in the micro stakes, making good pre-flop hand selection to set us up for post-flop success. Alrighty, so we're focused on this top section up here. Before we get to the hands, let me just explain this a little bit. These are all your open raising hands by position. In the EP, the first 2 spots in a 6-max game, the first 5 spots in a full ring game, you're going to be open raising all of the red hands for a 12% range, 162 combos. In the cutoff and the small blind, you're going to open raise 20%, 266 combos. That's all the red and the blue hands throughout. I'll explain this little triangle in a little bit. Now, button open raising is all the green hands. So basically everything that's colored here, you're open raising on the button. In the big blind, you're going to use the same 31% range, 414 combos, all of the hands when it's folded around, and the small blind is the only limper. So you're going to have the best position after the small blind limps in. That's when you use this in the big blind right here. This section, we'll get to this part in a little bit, but this is after you make the open raise or the isolation raise over a limper, and then you face a 3-bet after open raising, 4-betting, calling hands. We'll do some demonstrations here. Right now, we're just concerned with open raising. So we've got the pocket 9s. You can see the pocket 9s right here, color-coded red. This means you're going to be open raising it from every position once it's folded to you. So nice and simple, we open raise. But let me go over a tip right here. My main tip is open raise anywhere from 2 to 3.5 big blinds. This is currently what I'm doing. In the first 2 positions, I'll make it 3 big blinds. Over here, I'll go 3 as well in the cutoff. But on the button and the small blind, I'm making it 2 big blinds. I'm min raising here. And that's just my choice. I feel like my steals work just as often, making it 2, 2.5, or 3 big blinds. So I just go 2 big blinds. But it's up to you. You can do 3 big blinds in every position, 2.5 in every position. But in general, that's my recommendation. One of the things before you open raise, always look ahead for 3-bet bluffers, because you just may encounter lots of bluffers like this guy. Oh, 22%. I know it's a small sample, but it's a really high percentage, right? If I really expect him to 3-bet me, maybe both of these times, he 3-bet me in the past. Maybe I wouldn't want to open. Pocket 9s is still worth open raising, but it's always important to look ahead to see if you got 3-betters and you might want to not open raise, or maybe even make it a larger size, 3.5 big blinds, to discourage 3-bet bluffers. Because I didn't mention this earlier, but this is very important. Don't follow ranges blindly. If you think about these ranges, they only know 2 things about the hand that's going on. They simply know your position, where you're at, and the position of your opponent. You open raise in the cutoff, you face a button 3-bet, this is what you should play. but it doesn't know anything else. It doesn't know the size of the 3-bet you're facing, the type of player that you're facing, the other player still to act after you decide to call or 4-bet over the 3-bet, right? So it's up to you in the moment. Choose your hands dependent upon your opponents and the situation. Strive for positive EV hand choices. All right, so I think pocket nines right here, absolutely fine hand to open under the gun, even with a potential 3-better right here. And then a fold, we get a call. Fold another call. Holy cow, multi-way, 4-way, our open raise. And you guys encounter this all the time, but we have a pretty decent hand. And then boom, we flop a very strong hand. Now, I'm not going to go through every single hand here. We're not going to go through the post-flop action. That's just going to make this video too long. And the goal is, of course, to demonstrate the KISS cash game ranges for you. So we'll leave this hand right here. Jack 8 suited. You can see on the button, Jack 8 suited, it's actually not in the KISS cash game ranges. Oh, you know, this is a good thing to cover for you. If you've never seen a range graph like this before, of course, all the pocket pairs go down diagonally through the middle right here. Up top, these are all the suited hands. Down here are the offsuit hands. So you can see we're playing some suited kings and stuff, whereas we don't play the offsuit version of the kings. So that Jack 8 suited, you can see it's totally outside of the range. That means if you want to play tight aggressive poker, you should never call, never open raise, never 3-bet with this hand. However, sometimes, like I said, don't follow them blindly. It might be a great opportunity to open raise with the given hand. Folds, and I decide to fold as well, and here's one of the big reasons. We've got a pretty active player, 25-21, 3-bets a ton. It's not in my range right here. If he ends up calling, he doesn't fold on the flop, but he can fold on the turn. It's going to require a double barrel. And of course, like I said, it's outside of the range. So an easy fold, I just move on to the next hand. Now this last one, 10-8 suited out of the small blind. We can take a look. 10-8 suited right here. It's a blue colored one, so cut off and the small blind. We're fine to open raise it. But like I said, always look ahead for 3-bet bluffers. Think about who your opponents are, who is most likely to enter the hand against you. It's folded around to us. We open. You can see I just used the 2 big blinds because, like I said, 2 big blind steals, they seem to work just as often as I want them to on, of course, ignition poker up here. So I open raise. Boom, he folds. What a lovely result. All right, so let's talk about isolation raising. That is when a player limps into the pot and then you choose to raise over the top of them. Here's a really important idea when it comes to isolation raising. Expect a limper to call. When you open raise out of, let's say, the button, for example, you kind of plan for the small blind and or the big blind to call. They already have some chips committed. There's a very good chance they'll defend, especially a 66-1 or a 25-3 player, right? Players who just love to call, very passive players. Plan for them to defend. But here's the thing. When you're going to isolation raise like I'm about to do, or like I did, I should expect him to call. He's already shown the idea that he wants to see the flop. He wants to see it for as cheap as he can, but he wants to see it. My raise has a less likely opportunity or less likely chance to get him to fold than an open raise on the button versus the blind. So, like I said, expect him to call. Now, given that we expect this player to call, we've got to look at his post-flop stats before we actually make our isolation raise. And here's one of the great reasons or a couple great reasons to make this isolation raise. First, the hand is in our range. You generally use your full open raising range by position. In the cutoff, pocket fives is an open raising hand. I'm fine to ISO raise right here. But another reason to make this raise is hopefully everyone folds. I get them all to myself, but then look at that. The smart HUD tells me that this player folds on the flop 64% of the time. What a lovely play, right? I ISO raise pre-flop. If he calls, I can easily bluff him on the flop if I don't hit my set, right? So everything here is a great indicator of a profitable isolation raise. Like I said, it's in our range as well. Speaking of the ranges, you'll see this over here. Blinds raise over limpers. It's a 7.2% range consisting of 96 combos, and that's all the yellow triangle tagged hands. And you can see they're just the strongest pocket pairs, the strongest broadways, right? When you are in the blinds, either the small blind or a big blind. Let's imagine I wasn't here. I was seated over here with my pocket fives. A limper. In the blinds, I would ISO raise with these hands, pocket fives is not an ISO raising hand. Of course, I can choose to make it if I want to isolate this player and then take advantage of his folding on the flop, but for the most part, I generally just don't ISO raise from out of position with hands outside of these ranges right here. Remember, we're playing a tight and aggressive game. So I isolation raise, we get 3 folds, and then a call. And then the flop comes king high, I c-bet, and then he calls. Drat, he didn't give it to me. We're not going to review the rest of the hand right here, but I followed through with my plan, although I don't like my size. I think I should have gone bigger to try to get him to fold right here. Let's take a look at the next hand. King 10 offsuit, limp from EP. I'm on the button. Of course, King 10 offsuit, you can see it's at the bottom of my range, the worst offsuit, well, I guess Queen Jack, but the worst offsuit King right here. And I chose to not raise. I could have raised, and I really think I should have. I think this was a missed isolation raising opportunity, just because he's like a very maniacal, loose, aggressive, and passive player. This guy just plays a ton of hands. He's limping in, showing me he's weak. I have the best position. I think I missed a good opportunity to ISO raise right here. Even though I don't know much about him, he only folds on the flop 0%. But yeah, I should have ISO raised. All right, so let's talk about 2-betting and then facing a 3-bet. So we're particularly interested in this section over here. Now remember what I said before. Look ahead for 3-bet bluffers before you open raise, before you ISO raise, because 3-bets are the bane of 2-bets. Like, look at some of these hands. Open raise with King 5, 8-6, Ace-7 offsuit. You really don't want to face a 3-bet with any of those hands. If you can avoid the 3-bet in the first place, you're better off doing so. But occasionally what happens, boom, raise, boom, 3-bet. And then, now you have to face a 3-bet. Now we have to play a different kind of game, a bigger 3-bet pot post-flop, potentially if we don't choose to fold, right? Now here's a really important tip. Your call, if you do choose to call like this, your call says, I want to see the flop versus you with this hand. That means a few different things right here. You have to be, ready to see the flop. I want to challenge this player. For whatever reason, maybe he's super weak, I have a good read on him post-flop, whatever it might be. Here's a really good reason to call. His c-bet is only 36%, right? He doesn't c-bet the flop a lot. Most likely, on the flop, he's going to check, and then boom, I can bluff float him because he checked instead of c-betting. The other thing is about your hand. If I choose to call right now, it's because I want to play this hand, whatever that might be. Now let's take a look at the range. We open raised on the button, so we're looking at this area down here, versus a blinds 3-bet. We would 4-bet for value with jacks or better and ace-king, 4-bet bluff with ace-5 or ace-4. King-jack suited, unfortunately, isn't one of these hands, but it is within our calling range right here. So we're absolutely fine to call. When you make this kind of call on the button, hey, you have the best position. So for the next 3 streets, you're going to be in position, which is a benefit of calling. It's not the best hand in the world, but against somebody who only 3-bet 5 more big blinds, probably a super weak hand, potentially a super weak, even though he hasn't 3-bet much at all. Oh, it's only 1 out of 94. This is interesting. It's probably a really strong hand, but he's laying us such good odds, and he is so honest. This could easily be ace-king. Flop comes 9 high. He checks. We bet. Boom. We take it down. So we decide to call for all the reasons I've mentioned. Flop, holy cow, flops us the flush. He bets, and then now we'll probably go for value because he bet in a spot when he didn't, or when he normally doesn't bet. But we're not going to continue through the rest of this hand. Remember, we're focused on pre-flop. So we've got the ace-queen offsuit in the small blind. 3 folds, it's to us. Of course, in the small blind, right? We're open raising all the red and blue hands. Ace-queen offsuit, absolutely, within the open raising range right here. So we open. I made it a full 4 big blinds right here. And the reason why is because we have a very loose passive player. Only 42 big blinds right here. I just think he's a passive fish, and I wanted to kind of build a pot with a superior hand. But he comes over with a 3-bet, and I decide to fold. Now, before we look at the fold, in the small blind versus a big blind 3-bet, ace-queen is an absolutely fine call right here. Let's look at something else. In the Smart HUD, we have the note editor. Look at that. His 3-bet range is ace-7 offsuit in a prior hand. Why did I fold? I don't know. Maybe I wasn't thinking at the time. Maybe I saw that large 12 big blinds and I thought, holy cow, he means business. He has a really strong hand. But I really think this guy's one of those wild and crazy players. His 3-bet could mean anything. He doesn't have to have aces, kings, or ace-king here. I think I'm probably ahead of him. I think I should have 4-bet shoved over the top. 4-betting 4, or yeah, 2, 3, 4-betting 4 value in this point. Whereas normally I could do it with ace-king, but if you're up against a wide 3-better, remember, don't follow ranges blindly, right? Choose your hands dependent upon the players and the situation. And I think this is an absolutely fine situation to 4-bet over the top for value. All right, so we're still talking about facing a 3-bet after raising, but now let's get into 4-betting. Here's my tip. In general, when you're 4-betting for value or as a bluff, 20 to 25 big blinds generally does the trick. You get value from some weaker hands. You also get a lot of weaker hands to fold when you are bluffing them. Now, here's the thing. I rarely 4-bet bluff in the micro stakes. It's generally not necessary to take advantage to exploit opponents to make money in the micro stakes, but occasionally it is there. It's a play that you can make. It's no limit hold'em after all. You're free to do what you want. If you think they'll fold to a 4-bet when you're bluffing, go ahead and pull the trigger, right? But before you 4-bet, know they can give you what you want. If you're going to 4-bet for value, know that they can call or come over the top with worse. If you're going to 4-bet bluff them, know that they can fold their 3-betting hand right now. So with your 4-bet bluffs, you might want to target players who are definitely capable of 3-bet bluffing. 3 out of 16 over here. This one, it's only 1 out of 16, but people who've shown a tendency to 3-bet bluff in the past, they're the ones most likely capable of folding versus your 4-bet. So in the EP right here, we open raise. Of course, pocket kings, second strongest hand. Of course, it's in an EP open raising range, right? A few folds. Now we face a 3-bet. Before we see what they do, we're in the EP versus an in position 3-bet. The blinds would be one of these two players where we have position. Now we're out of position. You're going to 4-bet for value with pocket kings or better, and then you would call with these hands. Of course, you can turn any calling hand into a 4-betting hand if you'd like, but this is what the ranges tell you right here. So we've got the pocket kings, couple of folds, boom, we come over the top for 24 big blinds. Now, we just know this player. He's a tight aggressive, almost like semi-loose aggressive player. He's only 3-bet 1 out of 16. There's a good chance this is a value 3-bet with ace, king, pocket queens, jacks, and 10s, maybe even ace, jack, maybe pocket 9s even. Like he possibly has a wide range of hands that can call and give us value. Or his ace, king, ace, queen. Maybe those can come over the top and we're ahead of that, right? But then he just folds, hey, you never look a one pot in the mouth, right? Never frown when you take it down. We love this result right here. Ace 3 suited at this point. We're on the button. So, of course, on the button, you can see ace 3 suited. It's a red hand. We're fine to open raise it right here. And like I said before, you always want to take a look at your potential opponents and who can 3-bet you. This guy is 3-bet at 10%, 2 out of 21. Probably capable of 3-bet bluffing, especially with his large stack, maybe trying to push us around. He does make the 3-bet for 3.5x, 10.5 big blinds. We get a fold right here. Now, if we take a look at the ranges, on the button versus the blinds, ace 5 and ace 4 are 4-bet bluffing hands. This is right outside of that range. But we know this type of player, 33-26. He's in a spot, the small blind, where players love to 3-bet bluff in the micro stakes. It looks very strong because it's the worst position, and he's capable of 3-bet bluffing. As we've seen, it's 2 out of 21. I know it's a small sample, but 2 out of 21, he's capable of doing it. Let's come over the top with a 4-bet. I made it a little bit bigger to 26 big blinds with a hand one rank outside of the range, ace 3 versus ace 4, and then he calls right here. Now we go to the post flop, or we go to the flop. I hit the nut flush draw right here. We're not going to go through the rest of the hand, but you could see the reasons why I chose to turn what would normally be a folding hand into a 4-bet bluffing hand because it made sense at the time. All right, so let's talk about calling 2-bet. So we're going to use the bottom portion of the KISS cash game ranges. We have calling hands, we have value 3-betting, and bluff 3-betting, and then fold to a 4-bet with these hands right here. Now, two important things when it comes to calling somebody else's raise. The first thing is your call says, just like when you call a 3-bet, your call says, I want to see the flop versus you with this hand, right? He open raises villain 142, 45-45, raises first in 80% of the time. I guarantee ace-jack is ahead of his raising range, even though he's in the early position. So calling this is absolutely fine because I want to play this player in position with a hand ahead of his range, right? We both have basically full stacks right here. Things are looking pretty good. So that's an important thing to note every time you're calling. Now, the other thing is look ahead for 3-bet squeezers because when you call, you give the rest of the players a really good opportunity to 3-bet shove. We have a very loose passive player, but you can imagine like for tournaments, right? When a player has 20 big blinds, 3-bet shove heaven right here. An early position, loose aggressive raiser, probably a weaker hand just calling. What a great spot for him to come over the top and 3-bet squeeze shove. So watch out for that. All these other players, the Smart HUD says so far they haven't 3-bet, which is fine. But if I saw, for example, 9%, 8%, 7%, I'd be very leery of calling here, and I would probably turn my call into a 3-bet instead. So what happens? He calls, another call, fold, and then another call. Holy cow. I didn't really want to see the flop 5 ways with an ace-jack suited. Not the end of the world. I have a very strong hand. But seriously, I would have much rather maybe 3-bet this one and gotten him heads up all to myself. But we hit an ace on the flop. We're not going to go through the rest of the hand, but we got top pair, decent kicker. Now we got to play poker against 4 other players. That initial call was good, but we just built the pot. Not built. We sweetened the pot with our call for other callers and, of course, for any potential 3-bet squeezers. Let's look at the next. Oh, I forgot to mention right here, right? In the EP versus an EP open raise, yep, ace-jack suited, absolutely fine to be calling. There's your value 3-betting hands and some bluffing hands there. So we face a raise from an EP player. We're in the cutoff. So in the cutoff versus EP, ace-10 suited, ace-10 suited, ace-jack suited is a calling hand. Ace-10 suited is right outside of the range, so we end up folding. But here's another reason to just, even though it's a pretty decent hand, it's outside of the range, so it's fine to fold. But we got a 3-better here, a 3-better here, and a potential 3-better right here as well. And there was a 3-bet. There's a good chance if we had called, we would have faced a squeezed and just had to fold our ace-10 suited. The final hand, queen 10 suited out of the small blind. Out of the big blind right here. We get a min open raise. Let's take a look. Big blind versus the button. All of these hands are totally fine to call with, and we have the queen 10 suited right here. So yeah, find a call. Remember, always when you call, I want to see the flop versus you with this hand. So if going post flop against a 17-17 player, out of position with a queen 10, if it sounds like a good play, go ahead and call. Regardless of, but with the hand in the range, go ahead and call. If the hand was outside of the range, let's say it was something worse. Instead of queen 10, let's say it was queen 5 suited. Well, if you know your opponent and you want to call because you know how to exploit him post flop, remember, choose your hands dependent upon your opponents. If you think it's a great spot to put yourself in, go ahead and call. But these tight aggressive ranges are intended to keep you exactly tight and aggressive. If you've been losing money by calling too wide, especially out of the blinds, let's really flip the script here, change things around, start folding way more hands. But for me, everything says green for go for calling right here, so I call. Flop, I almost nothing on the flop, and then we got to play some post-flop poker. But remember, your call meant I wanted to see the flop. I'm choosing to go post-flop. Now we got to play. All right, let's get to everybody's favorite play, 3-betting. My tip for you, when you're in position, go 9 to 10 big blinds. Of course, you can go bigger to get more value out of fishy players, or maybe even go smaller if you think your bluff will work just as often. But generally, 9 to 10. Don't go the old standard 3x. If he min raises to 2, and you make it only 6, you're not getting as much value as you can out of your best hands, nor are you getting him to fold as often as you'd like when it's only 4 more big blinds, right? Plus, if you make it only 6, if he makes it 2, you're really putting yourself in a bad spot to face a cheaper 4-bet. You make it 6, they can make it 18 big blinds as a 4-bet and really put some pressure on you because you made it so cheap, right? You're making their 4-bet bluffs less costly. When you're out of position, so basically out of the blinds, you're going 9 to 12 big blinds right there. So let's see what happens. early position open raise of fold. Now we're in the cutoff. When we're in the cutoff versus the early position open raise, we're fine to call with these hands here, and we can bluff 3-bet with the ace-5 and ace-4, but always keep in mind that your plan is to fold versus a 4-bet. The reason why you would make this 3-bet bluff right here is because you believe he can fold. You think this play is going to work. He's going to give you what you want. That's the key thing. Anytime you're bluffing, pre-flop or post-flop, he has to be able to find a fold. If he comes over the top with a 4-bet, when he would normally fold with most of his range, that means he has a strong hand. A very easy fold after you 3-bet bluff because you've reasoned that he can find a fold. His 4-bet means he ain't finding a fold. He's sticking it back in your face. Time for you to exit. But then boom, they all fold, and you pick up a very nice little pot right here with a simple ace-5 suited. 2.8 big blinds right here. We've got the pocket tens. Let's take a look at our chart. Button versus cutoff. Nines through deuces are calling hands. We are going for value. And the reason why our value range has widened so much here, just a few more hands, ace-queen added versus that and jacks and tens, it's because the cutoff is the first stealing position generally for a lot of players, right? If we take a look at this guy's raise first in range, in the cutoff, 27%. Really wide range. It's not like he's only playing 5% of hands. No, pocket tens, the 5th best starting hand right here, definitely worthy of making the 3-bet. We're going 10 big blinds for some value here, and we get all folds. And once again, maybe I wanted value. Maybe I would have been happy with him calling ace-king, ace-queen, ace-jack, pocket nines, things like that. But never frown when you take it down. We picked up a nice pot for a simple 3-bet, and he doesn't even know what we had. We might have had ace-5, 6, 7 suited, you know? The last hand right here, we're in the big blind versus a small blind open raise. Before you see what I do, let's take a look down here. Big blind versus small blind. We're calling with all these hands down here. Our value range is really widened. We actually throw king queen in because so many small blind players, they are going to open raise with the king jack, king 10, queen jack, queen 10, king 5 suited and things like that. We can value 3-bet right here, and there's a good chance that not a good chance, but depending on the player, they might call with the king 10, king jack, because it's a small blind versus big blind spot, right? So king queen is fine to 3-bet for value. But actually, you'd be happy if he folded with a king-queen suited. Now, big blind versus small blind right here. You can 3-bet bluff. We threw in some extra hands outside of the calling ranges just to try to earn some more pre-flop pots, right? 7-6, 6-5, 8-6, 7-5 suited. We've got the 9-7, which is a calling hand, but occasionally when the player's right, when the timer's right, you can go ahead and 3-bet bluff. It's usually fine. It's actually quite often a good idea to turn a calling hand into a 3-bet bluffing hand. Not always, but depending on the hand strength, right? It is fine to do. Drat, he called. He didn't give us the fold he wants. Look, he generally folds 80% of the time, 4 out of 5. His fold means business. He has something good. Ace is on the flop. Man, what a bummer for us. This sucks. Oh, he checks. How interesting. There's a good chance he doesn't have an ace. We 3-bet pre-flop. We easily rep the ace-king, the ace-queen, the ace-jack when 3-betting here. Let's make a bet. Boom, he folds. We take it down. So that's one of the good things about 3-bet bluffing with some of these hands. We can rep those stronger hands that he, in this case, did not call our 3-bet with pre-flop. All right, thank you so much for watching the video. Now, in the next video in this KISS Cash Game Ranges series, I'm doing a one-table, 30-minute KISS Ranges demonstration. So you're going to see me actually using these ranges in game. I'll catch you in that one.